Hello, Jeff with Spoon River Outdoors. Hey, today I want to talk to you guys about dyeing and waxing your traps for helping to preserve them for long use. There's a lot of different dyes and stuff you can get. You can buy bags of logwood dye, or my favorite actually is walnut hulls. Just go out and pick them up off of the ground, use those hulls, soak them in some water. It'll make a nice black dye, looks really good. I'm less concerned about the look of the trap when it's dyed and more about the preservation. So on your traps, you got to have a little bit of rust on them for it to work. If you get a brand new trap, it's going to come shiny with a oil sheen coat on it. The first thing I do when I get a new trap is take it up to the car wash. I'll pressure wash it, get that oil off of it. You can put it in a 5-gallon bucket with some Dawn dish soap, something that fights grease or battles the grease well, and get that oil off of it. Again, there are a couple reasons to dye your traps. For one, the dye will chemically bond to the rust that is on your traps, and it will soak in, and that's what you're wanting to give it, is more of a natural smell. You don't want your trap to smell like anything but the surrounding areas. Today, I'm going to use bark from oak firewood that I have and some pine needles. I'm just going to heat it up. I'll put the traps in there, and we'll let those traps come up to temperature and let them sit in there for 10 or 15 minutes so they can absorb some of those pine needles and the oak bark. While this is heating up, I'll talk to you a little bit about the cleanliness of your trap. You need to get these things clean. You need to get all the dirt that's been on them from being buried during your trapping season off of there. If you've got dirt on your traps, the dye will not take, and even more so when you go to wax them. You got to get them clean. I just took a couple of these up to the car wash, pressure washed them off. Get some of that surface rust that's loose knocked off of there, because that rust is just going to fall off anyway. Again, you got to have them rusty to accept the dye, but you don't want them so rusty that it's just going to fall off. Getting that water up to a boiling temp is really not that important. It's not that great for the metal to get that hot. You just need to simmer it. Get it warm enough that it's going to accept that dye and get those scents in there. I've got my traps all out of the dye water. I've got me some water boiling here. I'm going to go ahead and throw some paraffin wax in. I'm just throwing mine in right on top of the water. A lot of people, when they wax, they'll want to use a 100% wax solution. I don't do that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but this is how I've been doing it for a long time, and it works out well. When that wax does melt down, all that wax is going to sit on top of that water. And as long as you can get a trap in there and you can heat it up to the same temperature as the wax, when you pull it out of that water slow, it will collect that wax on there. Before I dip my traps in the wax, I like to put a small nail right in between the jaws. It just holds the jaws apart so that you can wax that surface. Not necessary, but I mean, the wax will hold itself together, and then that area will not get waxed. So that's how I do it. I've got this wax melting down. I hope you can see it on there, that there is a layer of wax on top of that water. You can see it's definitely ready for me to start pulling some traps. So let's pull one of these out and see what it looks like here. Again, you don't want that water boiling or rumbling. You just need it hot. We'll pull this out. All that wax should run right off of there. I think that one's looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and get me a board hung up on these sawhorses and hang it real quick. Be right back. Let that heat up again. Putting those new cooler traps in, it's going to cool that water down, so we'll have to let it warm up again for a bit, and then we'll get back on it. One thing to note, when you pull your traps out of the wax, and it's going to be hard to see now because I'm doing this in my garage. It started raining and it's darker in here, but when you pull it out, if any of that metal looks like it's dry instantly, then you've got one of two things going on. Either the trap itself wasn't clean, it's got dirt or grime on it that's not allowing the wax to stick, or it just simply wasn't warm enough to hold the wax. That's one of the key things. Look them over as you pull them out. Like I said, if it looks like it's dry, it's there. You need to put it back in and let it warm up for a little bit longer. Check it in a few minutes and see if it looks like it's wet still, because it should have a wet, glossy look to it. All right, so again, I want to go back to when I was talking to you earlier about how I do my wax with just putting the paraffin wax on top of the water, and I let it melt down and put a skim coat on the top. I'm not going to deny or argue that a crock pot full of wax with no water in it is not better. I can't see that no wax is not better than, or that more wax is not better than less wax. I just wanted to make a video for you guys, let you know how I do it. This MB750, this is actually my brother's. This trap's 35 years old plus. This is how my brother taught me how to do it. This is how I've always dyed and waxed my traps. And I mean, there's been no rebuild. Original springs and everything on this thing. So I know it works. You can buy 10 pounds of wax and dip them if you want. This is just how I do it, and it does work. Hey, thank you guys for watching. I hope somebody learned something from this and you got an idea on how to move forward with preserving your traps from year to year, and you can someday have a almost 40-year-old trap that you've done absolutely nothing to besides some annual maintenance. Thanks guys, have a good day.